Heard from the players. Now it's time to hear from the head coach, DeShaun Foster, his second Big Ten Media Days. He gets set to lead UCLA this year. The Bruins coming off a 5-7 year, but one that saw them finish really well. They won 4 of their last 6 games last season. Overhauled the staff fairly significantly, including hiring Tino Cinseri, who had been at Indiana as his offensive coordinator. Significant roster overhaul as well, with 31 transfers coming in for the Bruins as DeShaun Foster gets ready for year number 2 and joins us now on our set here in Las Vegas. And Coach, let's start with transitioning into the second year. You hadn't been a head coach, obviously, going into last year. So what did you learn about yourself as a coach the season ago?
Mostly it was just about the motivation, being able to get these guys to play hard week in and week out. We hit a skid where we had lost a few games in a row, and if you came out to practice, you couldn't tell what our record was. And that just resonated with me because I was able to get them up each week to play. And then we finally were able to get on a run and win our last, 4 out of 6.
Yeah, I think that really speaks volumes about those guys, right? Because it didn't start well, and you're new to this, and it just feels like for everyone, hey, are we going to be able to get this thing going? And I think often that's reserved for the offseason, but to be able to turn it on mid-season in the way that you guys did kind of speaks volumes about the guys you had. Was there a moment where you thought, hey, this is clicking? Is there something that happened where you said, hey, I think we've turned the corner here?
The Minnesota game. I think after we played Minnesota, they understood how we let that game slip through our hands. And I think the players really, it resonated with them, and they came out that next Monday with a whole different type of mentality, and that's when we took off.
I want to go to your area of expertise, the running game, and some room for improvement there. When you look back on last year, what were the areas that were missing, and kind of what are the key areas for you to get this run game up to that next level?
Attempts. We have to just attempt to run the ball. And me being a running back, like you said, I want to hang my hat on that. So we're going to get out there, and I was able to switch coordinators and get Tino Cinseri in here and Andy Kwan as my offensive line coach. And I'm just excited about what they bring to the table. 2 hungry coaches that really want to show the world that they belong on this big stage.
You mentioned hungry. You got a lot younger on the coaching staff as well. Was that something you were thinking about after you decided you wanted to make a change?
It wasn't the focal point, but it was in the back of my mind. I did want to make sure that these guys can relate to these players and recruit them still. This is a different era of kids, so you have to recruit them a certain type of way, and I wanted to make sure I had the right people to do that.
2 biggest pieces, play caller, you already mentioned Tino, obviously quarterback, it would be Nico. What have you seen from their relationship growth since they first stepped on campus, now entering fall camp?
It's huge, I just love Tino's energy. He's a guy that's played quarterback at a high level, and he just holds them accountable, and their expectations are high. And I just think that they can hang their hat on the words that he says, and they just have a good relationship. Like you said, Nico's a great player, and I just love how humble he is. So he's open to learning anything, and he hasn't big timed anybody in our program, coaches, players. He's always in there acting just like one of the regular guys, like he's been here this whole time. So I'm just excited to see what Nico can do.
One of the things we talked about last year when we were here was your ability now to work with others on the defensive side, special teams. How did you enjoy that transition during the season?
That was fun, because you get to just insert your leadership throughout the team. And I'm still in the process of doing that. I'm still conscious of, you got to show your face more on the defense. They need to see you over here, not just offensively. I hate when my players, if I blow the whistle or stop the play, they're like, oh, the offense. So I just try to make sure that I'm there. We're a team, and we got to be there for each other. But, I love what Akaika was doing defensively, and I'm just going to continue to, show my face on that side of the ball and just make sure that everybody's embodying what I want.
It's especially important, though, because you're replacing a number of starters on defense. You bring in some new coaches defensively, and, to go from a position coach to a head coach, like the role is completely different. So I'm curious what role you play in getting those guys to gel together, kind of basically getting their chemistry in place. How are you involved in getting them to be familiar with one another?
It's more of that's kind of why we're going off campus for training camp, to bring everybody together. When you keep them in their familiar environment, as soon as practice is over, they'll go home, or I'd rather eat in my space But if we do off-site training camp, everybody's going to eat lunch together, breakfast, dinner. You'll sit down and just maybe go over the playbook with somebody a little longer, but we just have to find a ways, especially with this much turnover, like you guys said, we have to find ways to get this team to gel. And those couple weeks in training camp has to be enough. So if we're not on campus, if we're not away from campus, I wouldn't get exactly what I wanted out of it.
Can I follow up with you on that? I've thought about this. Pre-NIL, we were getting our rent checks, and it was like $1,200 a month. So we all had to pool money together, and you live with 5 or 6 guys. Now these guys can afford their own homes, and they got cars that they can navigate. Is that a challenge that you've had to address on the team? How do you go about approaching that?
Your academics better be on point for you to get off campus.
Okay.
And that's what I'm hanging my hat on. So all my guys understand that you got to be above a 3.0 multiple times to get off campus. Not just once. I want to see that you can function away from here, and then I can give you some more leeway. But the apartments that they stay in are pretty nice, and it's cool and everything. But like you said, they make money now, so they want to move.
They're living together?
Yes, and they're still living together.
Good, okay.
Too. Exactly, because some guys wanted to move out, and I was like, no, you should probably live with one of your teammates. So I kept them together.
What have you learned, or what has shocked you about having the corner office that has said, I didn't know I was going to have to deal with all of this?
It's just the off the field. The football stuff, you understand all of that. But it's academics. It's somebody in the dorms having a problem. It's talking to parents. Even though you are talking to parents as a running back coach because you have that relationship with them. But now I'm talking to people that I didn't have a relationship with because I wasn't there when they got recruited, or I was on the other side of the ball. So right now it was trying at first, but, we're finally in familiar territory, so it feels good to finally be in a position to where I'm like, okay, I know what to expect.
How much do you draw on your experience as a player? Like, have you thought about when you're talking to the players, this is how I'd like to communicate? Like, how do you draw on your playing days? Yeah?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything comes from that. Because the way that I want to get them to play is how I play for my coaches, is because they befriended me. I didn't feel like they were using me. It was just, they had me over their house. We broke bread together, I still talk to my running back coach to this day. So I try to do the exact same thing as the head coach. I know I can't do it as much as I would like to when I was a position coach, but I can still try to have the team over my house as much as possible. I can maybe just do the offense this time, do the defense next time, do specialists. So I'm just constantly just trying to find ways to reach them and to make sure that we're all on the same page and they really understand and everybody wants to buy in.
Do you cater food or do you grill out when they come? Like, who mans the grill?
It depends on what group is coming. So.
Okay, so the O-line's coming. Tell me
that. You need like 3 grills for the O-line.
I can't do that. I won't get to eat. I'll just be grilling the whole thing.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a little bit just about the fact. This is along the lines of what Jake was asking you, but drawing on your own experience. It's your school, and I've just always thought that is something that, and I guess in the NFL, you could have it, right? You play for an NFL team, and maybe you feel a connection there. But college football is different because it's your school, because you've walked that campus, you've gone in those classrooms, you've been in that facility. How do you internalize that, and how do you deal with kind of the emotion that comes with, hey, this means something to me more so than maybe it might mean to someone else?
It's crazy because you got to remember I'm still in group chats with teammates and alumni, and so.
And those group chats are dangerous.
Exactly.
Do you have to raise your hand and say, I'm in this group chat?
Yes, I'm here.
You guys realize, right? All those little circles. One of them is the coach. Yeah.
I did see that. So, but it's you just have to find ways to constantly get your players to just believe, because the hardest thing for us to do right now is get them to be consistent. And it's hard to be consistent at that age. So everything that I'm doing is just constantly keep them in a routine and try to make sure that they're consistent every day, and everything else will work itself out. But it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because I'm wearing both hats. Yeah. But this is my dream job, I know this school in and out. I've sat in the exact same seats that they're going to sit in. I've had some of the thoughts that you've had. Academics is hard. School is hard. Football's hard. Like, I've had these, but you can do it. and I can speak to that. So I just try to lean on my experiences a lot. Everything comes from my experiences.
Let's talk a little bit about recruiting, and only because I think it appears that it's taken off and gone into another gear. When I had the chance to be there last year in the spring, guys had opened it up. There was a lot of energy around it. Does that continue, and how have you seen things change as well?
Just want to make it visible, because I just felt that we weren't visible enough. To be in LA, we weren't visible enough. People knew UCLA, but I don't think everybody knew UCLA. You understood the colors, you understood the academics, but you didn't understand the football, you know? So I just wanted to make it visible, and we're just doing a good job. My coaches are competing at recruiting. They're all taking it serious and really wanting to be the #1 recruiter on staff. But other than that, it's just making sure that we find the right type of kids that's going to give us the opportunity to develop them. Because if you get the wrong kid, you're only going to have them for a year, gone. I can't miss. I got to make sure I'm getting the right kids, and we're doing a good job on getting kids that really embody our pillars.
What is the best part, or what is your favorite part? I mean, this is your dream job. As you reflected on year one, now going into, what was your favorite part?
Walking out of that tunnel every game, you know. I'm getting to do this in different phases. So I've come to the Rose Bowl as a recruit. Came to the Rose Bowl as a player, as a assistant. I was a volunteer, then an assistant coach, now the head coach, you know. So it's similar to Vegas being here. I was telling my players, so I've come to Vegas in different forms with my parents, stayed at Circus. Come on spring break where we all stayed in one room together because we had put our money together so we can get a room. Made it to the NFL, now we're able to get suites or whatnot, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing, but I just like to let these guys know that I've sat in these exact same seats that you guys have sat in. I've gone through every experience that you've gone through. Lean on me.
What are some of the things that you want to have accomplished after you guys leave training camp that will give you the confidence that, okay, we're ready for the season to start?
I just want to make sure that my team is just, you know, they understand what we're getting our hands into. We play Utah this first game. It's very similar to the Big Ten. They play a certain type of football. It's blue collar. They're going to come out there. They're going to play their game. They're not going to beat themselves. I'm just trying to reiterate that to our guys so they understand what we're getting into. And I think that they're doing a good job in that. And I think they're excited about this because they know how hard they worked this offseason in the winter and then how hard they worked in the spring. You know, this summer has gone really well, and I'm just excited. I think that that's the biggest thing, that this expectation for us might not be where other people think, and I'm excited for that too.
You know, Coach, it really feels like you found your voice here in the last year. How did that evolve? Like, how do you figure out who you want to be as a coach as a head coach when you're in that role for the first time?
Well, under the previous staff I was with, you weren't allowed to do interviews as your assistant coach. So the last time I talked to somebody, 09, when I was done playing football, you know. So, you know, it was just getting back into a routine, you know. And I'm just fortunate enough that I was able to get back in here and, you know, hit a home run in this Big Ten press conference and let everybody know that you're going to actually see growth in my team, just like you saw growth in me.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing the Bruins this year. DeShaun Foster, really good to see you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot, Coach.